From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the News Blast for this hour. LGBTQ Nation is reporting that the Trump administration is using its anti-trans actions to try to dismantle civil rights for both trans and cis women alike, and it's taking a very unusual route to do so. The Department of Energy is seeking to rescind the section of Title IX that says schools must allow students to play on sports teams with the opposite sex if there is no team for the sex available, unless the sport is a contact sport. The rule has allowed girls to play on boys' teams in schools that don't offer an equivalent girls' team. The Department of Energy claims the policy ignores the differences between the sexes, which are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality, and says eliminating it aligns with Donald Trump's anti-trans executive order keeping men out of women's sports. The rescission of the rule would only apply to schools that receive funding from the Department of Energy, which provides money to some schools for research and other programs, such as the Renew America's School Grant, to assist with energy upgrades. What's more, the administration is exploiting a loophole to try to rush the rule change through without the standard 60-day public comment period. The Department of Energy is using a process called a direct final rule, which does not require the formal rulemaking process, but is typically used for simple changes such as form updates. The direct final rule process allowed the rule change to take effect on July 15th unless significant adverse comments had been submitted by June 16th or yesterday. Thousands of comments were submitted, though they are not visible to the public. It's not clear whether the rule will officially take effect. If the rule does change, it will not only affect trans athletes. Schools that receive Department of Energy funding will no longer be required to allow cisgender girls to play on boys' teams when a girls' team does not exist. Shiwali Patel, Senior Director of Safe and Inclusive Schools for the National Women's Law Center, told K-12 Dive, the change is blatant sexism and harmful to women and girls. The Trump administration is trying to gut long-standing Title IX protections that intend to provide women and girls with more opportunities to play sports and without following the legally required rulemaking process, no less. Patel added that the administration clearly doesn't actually care about protecting women and girls, as it has used this claim to justify its crusade against trans rights, especially when it comes to trans student athletes. Julia Martin, Director of Policy and Government Affairs at legal and consulting group, the Brooming Group, explained that the administration was able to keep the proposed rule change under wraps for so long because no one would have expected it to come from the Department of Energy, as the Department of Education typically handles these kinds of policies. The proposed change, in fact, was slipped into the middle of a 47 so-called burdensome and costly regulations outlined in a Department of Energy press release in May, announcing the department's plan for a major overhaul to purportedly save the American people an estimated $11 billion and cut more than 125,000 words from the code of federal regulations. Part of what I see happening is this sense of overwhelm, Kel O'Hara, Senior Attorney for Policy and Education Equity at Equal Rights Advocates, told Huffington Post. There's so much happening that it's hard to follow. The Trump administration is trying to put these things through back doors, which makes it hard for the people who normally keep an eye on these things to catch it. O'Hara said the administration's use of the direct final rule process is also worrisome for the future of other civil rights protections. The really concerning part from my perspective is that this could essentially provide a blueprint for dismantling civil rights protections across the board. A second proposed rule change also seeks to rescind similar Title IX protections for education programs. The administration is also using the direct final rule loophole to try to push this change through on the same timeline. That's the News Blast for this hour. If you are watching our News Blasts and newscasts via YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Download the Live 365 app to take us wherever you go. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast direct from the Department of Agriculture. Here on PEP Radio.